What if I told you that the variant spreading faster than any other COVID strain so far could feel almost like a common cold, and yet it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about symptoms, contagiousness, and immunity? Imagine waking up with a runny nose or a mild headache, thinking it's just a cold, but it's actually Omicron quietly racing through your body and around the world at a speed that has scientists scrambling. That's exactly what we're going to uncover today, because the symptoms, the patterns, and the way this variant interacts with our immune system are unlike anything we've seen before. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to watch out for and why the rules of the game have completely changed. Hello everyone, my name is Mitch, also known as Dr. Rice, and yes, I'm speaking to you from quarantine. I caught the virus just a few days ago, and while it's not exactly the way I wanted to spend the holidays, it's given me a front row seat to what Omicron actually feels like, and it's surprisingly different. Now, before you panic, I promise this isn't a horror story, but it's eye-opening, because most of what we've learned from the original COVID, 1.9 and the Delta variant, doesn't apply here in the same way. So let's dive in and break down the top 5 symptoms that are emerging with Omicron, and trust me, there's a twist you probably won't expect. First up, the most reported symptom, a runny nose. That's right, the number one sign of Omicron isn't fever, it isn't the devastating cough we've all come to fear. It's a simple, annoying, runny nose, the kind you usually dismiss as a seasonal cold. But that's exactly the point. This variant tricks us because it feels familiar, almost harmless, and yet it's racing through communities at an unprecedented rate. You might think, well, it's just a cold, no big deal. But that's where the story takes a turn, because the way it spreads and interacts with immunity is very different from what we've experienced before. Next on the list is headache. Not a mild one-off headache, but the kind that lingers, reminding you that your body is fighting something, your immune system is working overtime, even if the outside world sees you as just sick with a cold. This symptom alone has thrown off assumptions about what a COVID infection should look like. People are walking around thinking they're fine, yet their bodies are mounting a defense against a virus that's evolving faster than the last one. And here's the thing, that leads to confusion, delayed testing, and unintentionally spreading the virus further. The implications are huge, not just for individuals, but for communities trying to stay ahead of the outbreak. The third symptom, fatigue, is where it really starts to get personal. Some people report mild tiredness, while others feel a deeper, more draining exhaustion. This isn't just feeling sleepy, it's your body redirecting energy to battle the virus, and it can sneak up on you. You think you're okay, then suddenly walking up a flight of stairs feels like climbing a mountain. And the surprising part, even with this fatigue, most cases don't end up in hospitals. That's part of what makes Omicron both a relief and a challenge. It spreads widely because it's mild enough for people to keep moving about, yet your immune system is quietly under pressure. Fourth on the list, sneezing. Yes, sneezing. Something we usually associate with pollen or a common cold. But with Omicron, sneezing is a primary vehicle for transmission, silently propelling viral particles through the air and infecting those around you. It sounds almost comical, but the reality is serious. These seemingly minor symptoms are part of why this variant is so contagious. And here's the curveball number 5, a sore throat. Again, familiar, mild, and often dismissed. Yet it's a telltale sign of the infection in many patients. None of this looks like the Delta variant or the original COVID 1.9 we struggled to identify early on. There's no severe cough, no immediate shortness of breath in most cases, and that's changing how people perceive risk entirely. And here's the critical part that most people miss. The absence of a cough doesn't mean you're not contagious. In fact, these mild, cold-like symptoms might be even more dangerous in a social sense because people shrug them off. They go to work, family gatherings, and public spaces, unknowingly spreading the virus. This mild presentation is what scientists mean when they say Omicron is highly transmissible but less severe. It's contagious enough to reach huge numbers quickly, yet mild enough that most won't need hospitalization, freeing up beds, yes, but also silently building natural immunity across populations. That natural immunity is a key piece of the puzzle, bringing us incrementally closer to the herd immunity everyone has been talking about, the kind that could finally push COVID toward becoming a manageable seasonal virus. But there's a twist here that's just as fascinating as it is concerning. Because Omicron is mild, many infections go undetected. People recover at home thinking it's just a cold, and the virus keeps circulating. This means that testing, isolation, and vigilance are still critical, because each undetected case is another potential spreader. And that's why recognizing these top 5 symptoms, runny nose, headache, fatigue, sneezing, sore throat, is so essential. Knowing them doesn't just protect you, it protects everyone around you, from friends and family to colleagues and vulnerable populations. So, if you wake up feeling off, even slightly congested or unusually tired, don't ignore it. Grab a test, stay home if possible. Because while Omicron may be milder, the ripple effects of ignoring these early signals could still impact your community significantly. And the more we understand the symptom patterns, the better we can anticipate outbreaks, protect hospital capacity, and slowly regain a sense of control over this virus that has reshaped our world. Finally, here's something to leave you thinking. The speed at which Omicron spreads, combined with the mild symptoms, is a double-edged sword. More people get infected, yes, but this means more natural immunity builds in the population, potentially accelerating the pathway to herd immunity. And while vaccines remain crucial, understanding how this variant behaves gives us a glimpse into a future where COVID-19 might eventually become something we manage, rather than fear a virus that goes bye-bye, not because it's gone, but because we've learned to live with it safely. And if you're wondering exactly how to tell if your cold-like symptoms are really Omicron or just a seasonal bug, stay tuned, because in the next part, we're going to break down testing strategies, what to watch for in yourself and your loved ones, and why early recognition can make all the difference in slowing the spread, even in a variant that seems deceptively mild. So, how do you know if that runny nose, lingering headache, or unusual fatigue is really Omicron and not just a common cold or seasonal flu? This is where testing becomes more than a formality. It's your frontline defense. Rapid antigen tests can give you an answer in minutes, but they aren't perfect, and timing is everything. Take the test too early, and it might come back negative even if the virus is already replicating in your system. That's why experts recommend retesting a day or two later if your symptoms persist or worsen. But here's the catch. Many people skip testing altogether because the symptoms feel mild. That's exactly what makes Omicron so tricky. It lulls people into a false sense of security while continuing to spread at lightning speed. And the story doesn't end there. Recognizing patterns in your own symptoms can be just as revealing as a test. Most Omicron infections begin subtly. A scratchy throat in the morning, a small headache by noon, and a wave of fatigue by evening. Sneezing may come and go, a runny nose may appear intermittently, and for many, these signs feel familiar. Like a seasonal cold they've experienced 100 times before. But here's the difference. Omicron can escalate and spread even when these symptoms seem minor. So understanding the timeline and paying attention to even mild changes in your body is critical. The sooner you identify these patterns, the faster you can isolate and prevent infecting others, particularly those at higher risk. Now, let's talk about contagion, because this variant doesn't just spread, it accelerates in ways previous strains never did. Omicron's mutations allow it to bypass certain immune defenses more effectively, meaning even vaccinated individuals can experience breakthrough infections. But here's the nuance. While it's highly transmissible, the severity of illness is generally lower. This creates a unique paradox. More infections overall, yes, but fewer hospitalizations per case. On the surface, that sounds like a relief, but in reality, this means that the sheer number of infections can still strain healthcare systems if public health measures aren't followed. Every missed case is another potential chain of transmission. And here's a curveball that's rarely discussed. Natural immunity from Omicron infections may play a surprising role in bringing us closer to herd immunity. Unlike the Delta variant, which often caused severe illness and hospitalization, Omicron's mild presentation means a larger portion of the population can recover at home, building immunity along the way without overwhelming hospital. That's a major shift in the pandemic's trajectory, and it highlights why understanding symptom patterns isn't just academic, it's strategic. Knowing the science helps slow the spread and supports broader community immunity. But don't mistake mild for harmless. Even though hospitalizations are lower, Omicron can still trigger post-viral fatigue, lingering headaches, and what researchers are now calling long COVID in some individuals. That means taking precautions even with mild symptoms isn't just about preventing transmission, it's about protecting your own long-term health. Ignoring mild symptoms or assuming it's just a cold can lead to prolonged recovery periods and complications that affect energy levels, mental health, and overall quality of life. Now, here's a point that will surprise many. Omicron doesn't always fit the traditional COVID symptom checklist. Loss of taste and smell, once considered the hallmark of infection, is far less common. Fever, another early warning sign, isn't guaranteed. This is why relying solely on what you expect COVID to look like can be dangerous. Instead, awareness of these subtler symptoms, runny nose, headache, fatigue, sneezing, sore throat, is your best defense. Recognizing them early allows you to test, isolate, and manage the infection before it spreads further. And finally, let's address why this variant is such a puzzle for public health. Its combination of mild symptoms, high contagiousness, and partial immune escape challenges traditional containment strategies. Lockdowns, mass testing, and quarantines were more effective with previous variants because symptoms were severe and recognizable. Omicron, however, spreads quietly, often going undetected until case numbers surge. That's why understanding the top 5 symptoms and acting on them immediately isn't just a personal choice. It's a crucial piece of the global strategy to control the virus. So, if you wake up with what feels like a minor cold, don't dismiss it. Test yourself, monitor your symptoms, and consider isolation until you know for sure. Every precaution you take doesn't just protect you, it protects your family, friends, and the community at large. And in the next part, we're going to dive into exactly what makes Omicron so contagious, why its mutations matter, and what this means for the future of COVID. 1-9 immunity worldwide. You're about to see why understanding Omicron's subtlety could be the most important knowledge you have in the next few months.